Welcome to the March the 24th convening of the Baltimore City Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. A couple of housekeeping measures before we get started. First, if you have a cell phone, a pager, anything that makes any sort of audible electronic sound, plays a ringtone, a chime, what have you, we ask that at a minimum you turn that to a vibrate-only position, if not off. The reason for that rule is pretty simple. There are a number of microphones arrayed around us up here, and those are all very sensitive. They're not only for the purpose of amplification, but they're also for the purpose of recording these proceedings. And things going off in the gallery, similarly, conversations in the gallery interfere with not just the general conduct of the proceedings, but also the recording these proceedings. Additionally, those of you who are forward of the wall can turn around. You can see that there are 3 video cameras on the wall behind you. There are 2 video cameras on the wall up here behind us. And those video cameras also are for the purpose of recording these proceedings, and they're recording them for broadcast on the city's Charm network, cable access, Charm TV, cable access channel. And similarly, cell phones and conversations interrupt with that process as well. We will be voting at the end of the day, and you're certainly more than welcome to hang around and enjoy a civics lesson if you so choose. But if you've got other things to do on this late March afternoon, that's understandable. If you take out pen and paper, I can give you the zoning board office number, and you can call in the morning and find out how we ruled. Then I'll read this number off a couple of times. That number is 410-396-4301. Again, that's 410-396-4301. You will, however, need to wait until you receive the formal written outcome of our decision. Should be forthcoming in about 3 to 4 weeks before you're able to go and get your permit. We certainly ask you to not build in the city of Baltimore without first obtaining proper permits. If you've not already done so, if you're here in opposition to any case today, we ask that you sign in on our sign-in sheet. Mr. French is holding that up there. The sign-in sheet allows us to know not generally which cases have opposition, but also allows us to know who needs to receive those aforementioned written notices I referred to. So if you're here and you're in opposition to a case, please sign in so that we know to include you in any notices that get generated. Those are also important if your case gets postponed. We do have a few of those today. We need to know who you are and where to find you to let you know when the case will be going forward if your case is being postponed. The procedure for when cases are called: if you're the appellant, you'll come up and you'll stand to my left or your right. The opposition, if any, will stand to my right or your left. Once everyone is up here, we'll get any witnesses sworn in, and then we'll proceed to hear the case. The appellant will be the first to proceed, allow us to know what the issues are in the case, what it is that they're proposing, answer any questions that are offered, that are posed by the board, and offer any testimony in support of their case. Once they're done, we'll then hear from the opposition, and they'll be able to present their side of things and their witnesses. Once the opposition is concluded, we'll go back and hear from the appellant to respond to any points brought up by the opposition and to offer a closing statement. We won't be going back and forth and necessarily delaying things into the evening. We will generally be calling the cases in the order in which they appear on the docket once we address preliminary issues first. We do have some cases that are being postponed. We've got a couple. 2015-13, 200 East University Parkway, Roberto Vela. Okay, well, that case is not being heard today. It's being postponed. And case number 2015-30, 5005-7, through 7, York Road. That case is being postponed. So if you're here in opposition to either of those cases, they won't be heard today. Make sure that you sign in so that we can let you know when they will be going forward. The next group of cases that we'll deal with are those on our consent agenda. And the consent cases consist of cases where the zoning board staff has reviewed the information in these appeals, and we've determined that there is sufficient information to approve these appeals. We'll call the consent cases as a group. So if you hear your name called off, I guess the first person, if you can start the line here, everyone else just line up behind them down the dais. Once we get everyone up here, we will get you all sworn in as a group, and then we will consider each one in turn. 2015-31, 3414, 3416, 3418, and 3420 Gunther Way. That's Lisa Junker. 2015-32, 2425 Sydney Avenue, Ian Sokolowski. 2015-33, 4500 through 4506 Park Heights Avenue, Ryan Potter. 2014-34, 3311 Toon Street, Ray Bond. 2015-37, 6206 through 10 Halliburtt Avenue, Nat Green. 2015-39, 1940 Annapolis Road, Clear Channel Communications, Joe Woolman. Also 2015-40, 510 Alluvian Street, this is also Clear Channel Communications, and Mr. Woolman. 2015-41, 2022 through 24 Eastern Avenue, AB Associates, care of Nate Prettle. 2015-44, 807 West 36th Street, Scott Ryan. 2015-45, 3503 Bonfield Road, Jonathan Beerer. 2015-47, 1111 McDonough Street, Tad Tadasi. And finally, 2015-48, 1113 McDonough Street, also Mr. Tadasi. Okay, is that everybody? All right, if you'll all raise your hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, first case, 2015-31, 3414, 3416, 3418, and 3420 Gunther Way, Lisa Junker. Good afternoon, Ms. Junker. We have this as an application to consolidate the 4 condominium lots and common areas into one lot and subdivide into attached single-family dwellings. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Thank you. Marvin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. The department has reviewed this application. The structure on the lot was previously approved by this board and therefore recommends approval of this appeal, subject to the condition that the proposed subdivision receive approval from the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Junker, is your client amenable to the condition offered by the planning department?
Yes, the subdivision plans are currently in for review and comments and processing.
Okay. Was there anything further you'd like to add to supplement the record?
No, thank you.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we've determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next case, 2015-32, 2425 Sydney Avenue, Ian Sokolowski.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, Mr. Sokolowski. We have this as an application to construct a one-story rear addition to a warehouse. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And Mr. French for the planning department?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank
Thank
you.
you. And Mr. Sokolowski, anything further you'd like to add to supplement the record?
No, sir.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we've determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next case, 2015-33, 4500 through 4506 Park Heights Avenue, Ryan Potter.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, Mr. Potter. We have this as an application to subdivide the existing lot into 2 lots, retain the church, rectory, and convent on one lot, and retain the school on the second lot. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right. Mr. French for the planning department?
Planning Department recommends approval of this appeal, subject to condition that the subdivision of the property receives approval from the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Potter, is your client amenable to the condition offered by the planning?
Certainly, yes.
All right. Is there anybody you'd like to add?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, 2015-34, 3311 Toon Street, Ray Bond.
Yes.
Afternoon, Mr. Bond. We have this as an application to construct a two-story rear addition. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. And Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bond, is there anything further you'd like to add to sum up the record?
No.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you. Good luck. Next, 2015-37, 6206 through 10 Hollowbird Avenue, Nat Green.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, Mr. Green.
How are you, Mr. Chairman?
Good, thank you. We have this as a application to construct a one-story, five-bay rear addition and use the entire premises as a garage for the storage, repair, and servicing of motor vehicles, not over 1.5-ton capacity, including bodywork, painting, and engine rebuilding.
That's correct.
All right, and Mr. French, for the planning department?
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application and recommends approval of this appeal. Subject to these conditions, there will be no parking, staging, or storing of vehicles on public rights-of-way. There will be no parking or storage of unlicensed vehicles on the property. All work must be performed indoors. All materials, parts, and equipment related to the use will be stored indoors. The area used for temporary storing of vehicles will be adequately screened by an opaque fence or wall. And if a dumpster is used to collect waste and trash related to the use, the dumpster will be placed either inside the existing building or its proposed addition, or within a masonry enclosure having a solid lockable wooden gate. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Green, is your client amenable to conditions stated by the planning department?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. And is there anything further you'd like to add to supplement the record?
No, other than the fact that we had talked with Mr. French, and we do intend on screening and landscaping that particular site.
Okay.
All right?
Anything further at this time?
No, sir.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, 2015-39, 1940 Annapolis Road, Clear Channel Communications, and law offices of Joseph Woolman.
Stepping in for Mr. Woolman.
Sure, and your name for
Taller
the
and
record,
better
sir?
looking. Steve Ginsburg.
All right, Mr. Ginsburg, we have this as an application to alter one of the three existing general advertising signs to include an electronic screen on the south face of the double-faced sign of the same, holding the same square footage area and the same height.
Yes, sir.
That's a mouthful. Okay. And Mr. French for the planning department.
All right. Thank you. The Planning Department noted that, to begin with, there was no south face to this existing sign structure. The panels are actually oriented to the west or to the east only, and therefore the department believes that the applicant intends to convert the west-facing sign panel. That said, if the applicant is in agreement with that, the department proposes approval subject to these conditions: that the entire single face of the existing billboard or general advertising sign facing west is approved for alteration to a digital screen, and that this alteration may be installed in incremental steps at the appellant's option without the need for further land use approval, so long as the billboard adheres to the operational limits or other conditions that may be imposed by the board. Second, that the performance of the digital screen billboard conform to all the requirements of Section 11-502 by having a minimum dwell time of 10 seconds, that it will not increase the area of the existing billboard, that it will not increase the degree of illumination, and that it will not have any flashing, blinking, fluctuating, or otherwise animated light. Third, the digital screen billboard will not have animations, movie clips, and/or sound elements. Fourth, that the digital screen will default entirely to black in the event of a failure of the remote control system or an interruption of advertising copy, meaning text, images, or both. And last, that the digital sign will have automatic brightness controls so that the sign will not constitute a hazard to passing motorists at night or during inclement weather. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ginsburg, is the applicant amenable to the conditions stated by the planning department?
It is.
Okay. Was there anything further you would like to add?
Mr.
on the
Woolman
record?
wanted me to add that to the record.
Okay. Let's see what gifts you come bearing.
We didn't take in consideration 95 has a curve in it.
I guess that is the one issue.
Yeah, 95 is north-south, so we,
So is that the, did you say west-facing side, Mr. French?
It,
Okay.
right.
Approving, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the, correcting the directional statement there. Anything further, Mr. Ginsburg?
No, sir.
All right. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we determined there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
I'll open this one for you.
Sure. Next up is 2015-40, 510 Louvian Street. This is also Clear Channel Communications in the law offices of Joseph Woolman, and Mr. Ginsburg stepping in as well. Mr. Ginsburg, we have this as an application to alter the existing double-face general advertising sign to include electronic screen with same square foot area and same heights. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. French for the Planning Department.
Thank you. The Planning Department believes there was an error in transcription. The original application stated to alter the legally established non-conforming general advertising sign. It did not refer to a double-faced sign, and in fact, a review of the property indicates there is only a single-faced sign on it. The
Okay.
department therefore recommends approval of the appeal with the following conditions. The entire single face of the existing billboard or general advertising sign is approved for alteration to a digital screen, and that this alteration may be installed in incremental steps at the appellant's option without the need for further land use approval, so long as the billboard adheres to the operational limits or other conditions that may be imposed by the board. Second, that the performance of the digital screen billboard conform to all the requirements of Section 11-502 by having a minimum dwell time of 10 seconds, that it will not increase the area of the existing billboard, that it will not increase the degree of illumination, it will not have any flashing, blinking, fluctuating, or otherwise animated light. Third, that the digital screen billboard will not have animations, movie clips, and/or sound elements. Fourth, that the digital screen will default entirely to black in the event of a failure of the remote control system or an interruption of advertising copy, text, images, or both. And last, the digital sign will have automatic brightness controls so that the sign will not constitute a hazard to passing motorists at night or during inclement weather. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ginsburg, is your client, is Clear Channel amenable to the conditions offered by the Planning Department?
Yes, sir.
And this discrepancy, single-faced, double-faced?
It was just an error in the application.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
there's
right.
only one face there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. And anything further to supplement the record?
Same as before.
Same as before?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for opening those. Besides this, anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Zoning Board staff, having reviewed your application, we determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good
Next up is 2015-41, 2022 through 24 Eastern Avenue, AB Associates, care of Nate Prettle. Afternoon, Mr. Prettle.
Good afternoon.
We have this as an application to subdivide the lots into two lots, subdivide lots into two lots to be used as two single-family dwellings and construct second and third floor rear additions with rear and rooftop deck onto both attached single-family dwellings. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the Planning Department?
Yes, the department reviewed this application, notice it does propose a subdivision. The Department of Planning recommends the approval of this appeal, if granted, be subject to conditions. The subdivision of the property received approval from the Planning Commission, and this property being located in the historic district, the all exterior alterations, additions, and demolition received approval from and be completed in accordance with notices to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Prettle, is your client amenable to conditions stated by the Planning Department?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Anything further you'd like to add to supplement the record?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we determined there is sufficient information to approve your appeals.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, 2015-44, 807 West 36th Street, Scott Ryan.
Hi.
Afternoon, Mr. Ryan.
Good afternoon.
We have this as an application to use the first floor and basement as a teaching kitchen for culinary classes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. French, anything for the Planning Department?
Department of Planning has no objection to this application.
Thank you. And for the record, I think that Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark signed in support and has delivered letters of support, letters in support of this application. And Mr. Ryan, was there anything you would like to add to supplement the record?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we determined there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, 2015-45, 3503 Bonfield Road, Jonathan Beerer.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mr. Beerer. We have this application to construct a second-floor front addition. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning department has no comment on this application. Thank
Thank
you.
you. And Mr. Beerer, anything further you would like to add, some on the record?
No, Your Honor, no.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we determined there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Next, 2015-47, 1111 McDonough Street, Tad Tadasi. Afternoon, Mr. Tadasi. We have this as an application to construct a two-story rear addition with rear decks and rooftop deck. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Tadasi, anything further you would like to add to something on the record?
No, sir.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we determined there is sufficient information to approve your appeal. Next is 2015-48, 1113 McDonough Street. This is also Tad Tadasi. You're still there. And Mr. Tadasi, we have this as an application to construct a two-story rear addition with rear decks and rooftop deck. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Tadasi, anything further you'd like to add as to this appeal?
No, sir.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we determined that there is a sufficient, there is sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to consider cases for which we've received opposition. Frequently, we found that opposition is a result of a lack of communication or miscommunication between the parties, and it can be useful to offer the parties an opportunity to have a discussion amongst themselves to see if they can reach a resolution. Obviously, if two opposing parties approach the board and ask the board to resolve their dispute, one of those parties is bound to go away disappointed, and this is your opportunity to avoid that. When I call out the, I guess, one case that we have opposition on, you can stay where you are. I'll offer you an opportunity to confer with one another. If you'd like to, you can just step out the double doors to your rear, and we can hear your case when you're done speaking. If you don't want to talk, that's certainly your prerogative. We certainly encourage you to speak, but you don't have to. But if you don't want to speak, then you can have a seat, and we'll hear your case in turn. 2015-28, 428 Mosher Street, James Weinman. Okay. That makes that easy. All right, first case, 2014-590, 203 East Northern Avenue, Jose Taveras. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Your name for the record?
Jose Tavares.
Okay. And Mr. Tavares, we have this as an application to use the lower level as a carry-out food shop and grocery store. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, if you can raise your hand and be sworn, please.
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, do we have staff reports?
Yes, first we have a letter from the New Greenmount West Community Association. They write on the behalf of the association the right to express our opposition at this time to the request. The association had the opportunity to meet with the appellant, and following the meeting, the association discovered that Mr. George had applied for an appeal to use the basement at 203 East North Avenue as a carryout location in 2011. As you can see on the attached BMZA data sheet, see item 1, Mr. George appeals was dismissed and there was never a zoning variance issued. As a result of this, permit number USE 2110-538, which was issued on February 7, 2011, is invalid. Mr. George has allowed the operation of a carryout business in his building without zoning approval. This further means that the current request is based on operations which are not currently permitted and are in fact a violation of zoning. Oh. They note that the proposal, existing use, closed carryout, proposed use, carryout grocery store is invalid. We look forward to continuing this conversation with Mr. George, but must, in due diligence to serve our community at the highest level, reject any notion of support for this application. We urge the board to decline the request for the variance at this time. And we have planning's report.
Thank you. Planning Department notes that this property, in addition to the issues mentioned in the letter from the Community Association, is a property located in the Greenmount West Urban Renewal Plan area. The urban renewal plan for that area states specifically that a non-complying use, as the term is used in that urban renewal plan, may not be changed to any other non-complying land use. The last authorized use of the property was as a restaurant and coffee shop, and the proposal to change restaurant and coffee shop to carry out, therefore, would need to be disapproved by the Planning Department under the terms of the urban renewal plan. For that reason, the department recommends disapproval of the appeal because the Greenmount West Urban Renewal Plan, which prescribes permitted land uses in the Greenmount West Urban Renewal area, of which this property is a part, does not allow changing of the former non-conforming use of restaurant and coffee shop to the proposed non-conforming use of carry-out food shop. And the department notes, given the 4 years which have elapsed since the non-hearing of appeal number 2010-516, referenced in the letter previously mentioned, and the applicant's statement that the carry-out food shop is closed, there may no longer be a non-conforming use of this property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Tavares, did you understand everything that Mr. French just said?
Yes, do you remember last time I was explaining you that it was open a year ago?
Mhm.
They actually was closed like in August, September, something like that. And you told me to bring them. The owner of the building, Luis George, is this gentleman right here to testify. If you can see right here, the date of the issue, of the certificate of occupancy. I don't know how to say it in my
Certificate
English.
of occupancy.
Yeah, it's last year, and right here I got the health department permit too. That was last year too. So they, what can I say? I eat food from there. I live in there like 9 months. I got living in there 10 months. They closed the store, the carry out. They closed it, and last year, like September, October, you know, and it never was coffee, you know, not like it says right here in the permit. You see, it said carry out, restaurant and carry out. I just want to change the name to carry out and grocery. Right now, if I wanna continue using as a carry out, I can go. I just change my name, you know. They told me that.
Now, as I'm remembering this, I think the community members were saying that there is a downstairs portion, and then there was, I thought there was like a first floor.
One bedroom, first floor.
The floor plan is just,
Yeah,
just for the
Yeah.
basement.
We've got something for you.
No.
So-
but I mean,
Because right now, I don't have a problem to use as a carry-out. I can go and just change my name, and I can use it. They changed the permit, the certificate of occupancy. They just change it to my name, and I can still keep using it, you know? I can continue use the premise as a carry-out. I just want to add a grocery store, you know? That's why I'm here. I don't want to, I want to keep in my name and add grocery
and
store.
I hear you on all that. The confusing part is that our records don't
Don't
show,
carry out. I understand what you're saying.
the last use was as carryout.
I just get that's duplicate today.
Any,
I'm sorry, I'd like to add. I
if you
actually
can
came to-
identify your.
I'm Louis George, yeah,
Okay.
landlord of the property.
Okay,
And in 2008, I believe it was, right before the same board, but before this board, I applied for the variance for
Mhm.
carryout, which was approved. We opened it then, and those are the drawings that you're looking at as Cafe Susie's. And it was a carryout restaurant. We catered to the Board of Education across the street, the Department of Social Services, and the community at large. In fact, Eric Goods, who's the director of the Greenmount West Association, now it's being called the new Greenmount West, and Miss Patricia, Miss Pat, we know her as Pat, they all, approved and gave me support. In fact, they
because what
wanted-
we have on our records for the 2006 case is to use the premises for 2 dwelling units and a restaurant.
Right, and it's continued.
Well,
until
there's a
today.
difference between a restaurant and carryout use. And that's the discrepancy here. Mr. French, anything you've got that can shed light on this permitting history?
And probably the same records you have access to. Unfortunately, the planning department doesn't have a separate set of records.
There's a difference between restaurant and carryout. However, all restaurants can have some carryout, as long as it's accessory to the restaurant. The primary use of the property would be, in what was in the previous case, like a coffee shop. You have a floor plan that shows seating for your customer, and customers come and they'll get something packaged to take back to their office or whatever, that's fine. But the primary use has to be a restaurant, not carryout. That's the difference that I think is what is being confused here.
Yeah, now, looking at the drawings, I see that you've got a seating area, four top tables, and then what looks like sort of a dining counter. And then there are the restrooms and some supply areas. Then you've got the kitchen behind that. I don't see like a counter that someone would be ordering from. And would people sit down and get their orders taken?
Yes, the counter is gonna be in the front. Probably doesn't show over there, because
'Cause I'm seeing the counter here where people would eat. I'm guessing these are stools at a countertop. And then near the tables, I don't see where people go to order.
that's not the reason.
That was the floor plan associated.
That was the floor plan.
2006.
Yeah, in 2006. This is not my floor plan.
Okay, do you have yours?
I submitted here to the zoning board.
You submitted this.
No, that's not mine.
Okay. And you didn't bring a copy with you?
No. It's actually a counter in the front. You can order the food in the front, and it's a grocery store, like grocery store. In the back is the carryout. They make the hot food in there, like cheesesteaks.
Okay, so if you're gonna have the grocery store up here, okay, and then there's the counter that people order the carryout from, there's not gonna be any of these tables and
No.
lunch counter? Okay. Okay, and I think that that's what the problem is that while as before, it was a restaurant with some accessory carryout, you're proposing a pure carryout. That isn't permitted.
Is this
Yeah,
what you
tables and
submitted?
chairs, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have tables and chairs.
Kitchen, bathroom.
no sé, no se va a ver así, ¿no? Tienes que poner la mesa y tal.
This is kind of an open space with the kitchen in the back. Here would be the grocery.
Have you removed the restrooms that are shown, they're still there?
It's still there, yeah.
Okay, they're not on that drawing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that that's the problem that you're having.
Okay,
here.
so, what I have to do to the zoning board approve this appeal?
Well, what was previously approved was a restaurant or a coffee shop with accessory carryout. Now, accessory, that's a defined concept within the code. Means your the primary focus of the business has to be people sitting down and eating, not taking it somewhere else.
I will never, I'm gonna change that to a grocery store as a primary use, or,
Well, if you change it to a grocery store, I'm not really sure that there's an issue there. The issue is with the carryout. If you eliminated the carryout, Mr. French.
Well,
and
the
there was a-
problem then is the urban renewal plan isn't going to let him change to a grocery store from a restaurant and
Restaurant.
cafe. He's
Good
sort of
point.
trapped between the zoning code and the urban renewal plan at this point.
Okay. That part, as far as the grocery store, we wouldn't be able to approve because of the urban renewal plan. Yeah.
Is there a way to confer with Mr. French and then come back, perhaps another day or another postpone,
Certainly.
clear things up?
Okay.
Okay.
2014-590, 203 East North Avenue is postponed.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We'll hold on to your drawing.
yeah.
We'll provide you better.
All right, thank you.
You probably, yeah. Sir, you want these?
Those originals. All right. Next case, 2015-28, 428 Mosher Street, James Weinman. Two 2015-42, 6571 Eastern Avenue, Bayview Hotel Partners LLC, care of Jim Gosnell. Afternoon, Ms. Hecker. All right, got everybody?
Yes,
Got
I
another
think
one.
we're all here.
Okay. All right, Ms. Hecker, we have this as an application to consolidate lots, subdivide a portion to be 6571 Eastern Avenue and construct a 5-story, 112-room hotel with 114 off-street parking spaces. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay. Will all those giving testimony raise their hands and be sworn, please?
Raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, do we have staff reports?
Yes, firstly, I would like to Baltimore Development Corporation, on behalf of the corporation, I am pleased to support the Bayview Hotel Partner LLC's application for the consolidation and subdivision of the lots located at 6571 Eastern Avenue, lots 5A and 5D, as well as their proposed construction of a 5-story hotel. And we have planning's report.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application, notes this is part of a continuing effort to redevelop this entire site, which was a former industrial site. The department is recommending approval of this appeal, subject to the condition that the development plan and the subdivision plan are approved by the Planning Commission. Thank Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. And Ms. Hecker, is your client amenable to the conditions stated by the planning board?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here?
I can do that. For the record, Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin Greenberg. I'm joined by my colleague Justin Williams, as well as Amy DePietro, and Sean Davis, who has disappeared from Morrison Ritchie, Jim Gosnell, oh, you're behind the thing, Jim Gosnell and Brian Norris, who are representatives of Bayview Hotel Partners, which is the applicant here. As Mr. French mentioned, this is an application to redevelop a former industrial site. It's zoned M21. They're proposing to construct a Hampton Inn hotel there. It would have 112 rooms and 114 parking spaces, as you noted earlier. The site is adjacent to I-95 behind the Wawa and Firestone tire shop on Eastern Avenue. There's an aerial photo in the file that I handed out that shows the proposed location. It is, like I said, a former industrial site. There's nothing there right now that's being demolished to make space for it. You'll see a copy of the subdivision plan as well in the file that shows the proposed reconfiguration of the lots, as well as a site plan showing the location of the structure and an elevation of the proposed hotel building. I've handed out also in the file, there's an outline that goes through the various legal standards, which I'll walk through briefly, and we're certainly available to answer any questions that the board might have. But you know, the establishment and location of the hotel at this site will not endanger or be detrimental to the public health, safety, general welfare, or morals. It will activate a large vacant industrial site. It's a much more compatible use than any type of heavy industrial use that would otherwise be allowed there would be. And in addition, the proximity to Bayview Hospital makes it very attractive for the hospital, for families of patients who are coming to visit as well. It's not precluded by any urban renewal plan or any other law. It is in the public interest. We have met with the Bayview Community Association most recently last Tuesday night. We were hoping that we would have a letter by now from them, but it appears that it didn't make it here in time. But the use of the property as a hotel is consistent with the purpose and intents of the zoning code in encouraging the most appropriate use of land. It does not require any variances. We're agreeable to the condition that Mr. French stated, and in fact, we're meeting with the Site Plan Review Committee and the Planning Department tomorrow morning to review the site plan. So the site plan that's included in the file is a conceptual site plan, but that obviously will require further review and approval by the Planning Department. From a traffic perspective, the project site is within the southeast traffic mitigation zone. Will be required to pay a fee to mitigate for any traffic impacts. But as a practical matter, the hotel is capturing customers who are already on the roadways. They're traveling on I-95, or they're already visiting the Bayview campus, and so it's not necessarily generating very many new trips. It's not immediately adjacent to any dwellings, churches, or other schools or places of public gathering. As you can see from the aerial photo, it's set back from Eastern Avenue, and is not directly proximate to the Bayview community, although that is the closest neighborhood association. As I mentioned, we're meeting with the Site Plan Review Committee tomorrow morning, so they'll review the site plan for compliance with all life safety codes, access, traffic circulation, and will fully comply with all of that, all of the city's requirements. There are adequate utilities on the site. There's no cultural or historic landmarks. The development of a hotel here is consistent with the provisions of the city's master plan, specifically the goal of retaining and attracting business and hospitality and tourism. As I mentioned before, the development of the hotel will encourage the most appropriate use of land in this area, particularly compared to the heavy industrial uses that would be allowed on the M2 site. BDC submitted a letter of support. We did meet with the Bayview Community Association. They don't object to our application, and certainly there's no one here in opposition this afternoon. We're happy to answer any questions you might have, but that would conclude our presentation.
Just have a couple technical things.
Mm-hmm.
The application talked about consolidating
Mm-hmm.
6571, and also the Canton Railroad right-of-way, which is shown on the city's block plan, tax plan, as this area here.
That's correct.
And then your lot 5A, is 4.5 acres roughly. So once you consolidate, then you're going to subdivide, which wasn't part of the application. That's what confused me. And you're going to end up with three lots where those two were previously. Am I reading that right?
Almost. There is actually the tax plat that's available on the city's website hasn't been updated since the last time the city examined this property. And in fact, there was an earlier subdivision that's reflected on this plan here. And we're consolidating the two lots
I got you.
on the bottom side there.
I was working on the old one.
The old, right.
Which
That's
is
what I was.
what I have access to. So that's where the confusion
That's
came
where the
from.
confusion is.
Okay,
Thank you.
I understand.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next up, 2015-50, 4904 Liberty Heights Avenue, Nathan Adams.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon,
How are
Mr.
you?
Adams. We have this as an application to use a portion of the premises for motor vehicle sales in conjunction with the existing garage for storage, repair, and servicing of motor vehicles not over 1.5 ton capacity and not including bodywork, painting, or engine. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Sir, if you can raise your hand and be sworn, please.
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has reviewed this application. This property is located in the Howard Park area, and there is a question the department has technically that the use is a non-conforming use, or at least part of it is, and therefore the decision of the zoning administrator needs to be affirmed as part of this review today. The department is recommending that there be a limitation on the number of vehicles for sale because the department notes that automobile sales in general is an allowed use or permitted use in a B3 district. This is a B2 district in which those sales are not permitted by right. Therefore, the department recommends approval of this appeal if it is modified by the applicant to limit the number of vehicles displayed for sale and subject to these conditions in which the applicant may operate. First, that there will be a landscaping in the front approved by the planning department installed along the front of the property. Second, there will be no parking, staging, or storing of vehicles on public rights-of-way. Third, that there will be no parking or storage of unlicensed vehicles on the property. Fourth, that all work must be performed indoors. Fifth, that all materials, parts, and equipment related to the use will be stored indoors. Sixth, that the area used for temporary storing of vehicles awaiting repairs will be adequately screened by an opaque fence or wall. And lastly, if a dumpster is used to collect waste and trash related to the use, the dumpster will be placed either inside the existing building or within a masonry enclosure having a solid lockable wooden gate. The department basically is asking that the applicant clarify the maximum number of vehicles that would be displayed for sale at any given time. If the applicant is not willing to limit the number, then the department recommends disapproval of the appeal. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Adams, are you, well, first, did you understand all those various different things that Mr. Adams?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
All right, and it seems like they want to have a limitation on the number of vehicles that you're offering for sale
I agree
as a
with that.
condition of any approval. And are you amenable to that?
Yes.
Okay, and how many vehicles would be listed for sale at any one time?
Well, from what they've asked, it would be no more than 6. We have been there since, I've been there since 1999. I'm just trying to add to the business, trying to increase. And also with being in good standing with the community, I'm just trying to upstage and make it because of the Howard Park Community Organization. Just trying to make things a little bit better there.
Okay, and Mr. French, is the planning department fine with the limitation of 6 vehicles?
This would be acceptable. We've used this type of limitation in other situations.
Familiar? Okay, and these vehicles that you'd have for sale, where would they be coming from?
Okay, they would be purchased vehicles, or they would be vehicles that have been, like say, with the lien, with the business. right now, state motor vehicles allows us a certain amount of vehicles a year to sell, but we're not into the selling business. What I'd like to do is consider myself legal on both sides
Okay.
to make sure that I'm able to, get rid of vehicles or sell vehicles, or if I needed to purchase a vehicle to sell, then I would be legal to do that.
Okay. So it sounds like it really is sort of a typical accessory kind of use that
Yes,
you're looking for.
it's, to put it, honestly, it's more like a mom and pop type situation that my wife and I
Okay.
decided to add to the business to make it a little better.
Okay. And the garage repair would be the primary
It is what it is
operation?
now, it would stay the same. We, automotive repair, we've been, like I said, we've been there in that location since 1999. I've been in business since 1988. So
All right.
just want to conform and file for what need to be in order to be able to do what's necessary.
Okay. And, I'm sorry, did you say that you met with the community association?
No.
No, you
I
have
have
not?
not met with them.
Okay.
I mean, as far as to, let's say, a formal, I mean, I know them, I run a very clean operation, very respectable in the community. So
Okay.
there has never been any complaints or anything.
There's certainly
What
no
I
one
have
who's
here,
here.
though, is to give you a basic idea of what we have right now.
All right.
And I just wrote on it so you could tend to understand. I mean, we have plenty of storage area, we have plenty of the garages in the front.
Mhm.
Okay, we have, right now, the thing that would have to be added would be where our dumpster is inside the fenced area. We would just have to put it inside of an enclosure
All right.
that would be acceptable.
Okay. Can we keep that for our file?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Anything further? Thank you.
Okay, so I will hear from you.
You can call back in the morning and find out how we ruled, or I guess you could hang out for 5-10
Well,
minutes.
the way
and
things
go
been
see.
going, I probably might as well sit. Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, and calling again, 2015-28, 428 Mosher Street, James Weinman. All right, we'll go off the record. All right, and were there any that we wanted to discuss?
I didn't have any.
No?
Me neither. All right, you just want to vote? Okay. Official scribe. I said official scribe, you ready to?
You know, we are gonna miss you, so.
We are. He's really going to miss it. All right, 2014 -590, 203 East Northern Parkway, East Northern Avenue is postponed. 2015-13, 200 East University Parkway is postponed. 2015-28, 428 Mosher Street is a no-show. Was there any kind of word from him, or?
I would vote for dismissal, subject to any explanation,
Sure.
acceptable
Yeah.
explanation coming in.
That's fine with me. 2015-30, 5005 through 7 York Road is postponed. 2015-31, 3414, 3416, 3418, and 3420 Gunther Way was by consent with planning department conditions. 2015-32, 2425 Sydney Avenue was by consent. 2015-33, 4500 through 06 Park Heights Avenue was by consent with conditions offered by the planning department. 2015-34, 3311 Toon Street was by consent. 2015-37, 6206 through 10 Hollabird Avenue was by consent with conditions offered by the planning department. 2015-39, 1940 Annapolis Road is by consent with conditions offered by the planning department. 2015-40, 510 Alluvion Street was by consent with conditions offered by the planning department. 2015-41, 2022 through 24 Eastern Avenue was by consent with conditions offered by the Planning Department. 2015-42, 6571 Eastern Avenue, I'm a yes.
Yes.
2015-44, 807 West 36th Street was by consent. 2015-45, 3503 Bondfield Road was by consent. 2015-47, 1111 McDonough Street was by consent. 2015-48, 1113 McDonough Street was by consent. And 2015-50, 4904 Liberty Heights Avenue was with a limit, an agreement with the Planning Department on limitation on number of vehicles which can be listed for sale at any one time. That limitation will be 6 vehicles. And with that limitation, were there other conditions, Martin, that you had? The sort of the typical ones? Yes. And also, I guess, additional conditions offered by the Planning Department. I'm a yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Thumbs up.
All right,
There we go.
39 minutes.
39?
Yeah. It hasn't happened in a while, that's for sure. Beeps, plays a ringtone, what have you. We ask at a minimum that you turn that to a vibrate only, if not off position. Additionally, if you need to have a conversation with someone else in the gallery, we ask that you take that conversation out the double doors to your rear. The reason for those rules is pretty simple. There are a number of microphones arrayed around us up here. Those microphones are all very sensitive, and they are not only for the purpose of amplification, but also for the purpose of recording these proceedings. Additionally, there are 3 video cameras on the wall above you, and there are 2 video cameras on the wall behind us. And those video cameras are recording these proceedings for a broadcast on the city's Charm TV cable access station. Similarly, conversations in the gallery, things going off, cell phones and the like, interfere with that recording process as well. We'll be voting at the end of this docket. And you're certainly more than welcome to sit around and enjoy a civics lesson if you so choose, but if you've got something else to get to this evening, that's understandable. And after your case is done, you can leave and call into the zoning board office in the morning and find out how we ruled. Take out pen and paper. I can read this number off a couple of times. The number for the zoning board office is 410-396-4301. Again, that number is 410-396-4301. You will, however, need to wait until you receive the formal written outcome of your case. That should be forthcoming in about 3 to 4 weeks before you'll be able to get your permit. We ask that you certainly not build in the city of Baltimore without first obtaining proper permits. If you've not already done so, if you're here in opposition to any case, please sign in on the signing sheet, which Mr. French is holding up. And the reason for the signing sheet is a pretty simple one. Not only does it allow us to know generally which cases have opposition, but also allows us to know who needs to receive those aforementioned written notices I just referred to. Additionally, if your case is postponed for any reason, we need to know how to contact you to let you know when your case is going forward. The procedure for when your case is called is that you'll come up, the appellant will stand to my left or your right. The opposition, if any, will stand to my right or your left. Once everyone is up here, we'll get you all sworn in, and the appellant will proceed with their case, present what it is that they're proposing to do, discuss any issues that are involved in the appeal, answer any questions that are asked by the board, and present any testimony or documents into evidence that they would like the board to consider. Once the appellant has concluded their presentation, we'll then turn to the opposition, if any, and the opposition will be given an opportunity to present their side of things. Finally, we'll go back to the appellant, and they'll be given the opportunity to respond to anything that's brought up by their opposition, and offer a closing statement. We won't be going back and forth, unnecessarily delaying things and keeping folks here longer than they need to. And at that point, the case will be over. We'll generally be calling the cases in the order in which they appear on the docket once we get through the consent agenda. And the consent agenda are those cases, or in this case, the one case, where the zoning board staff has reviewed these files, has reviewed the file and determined that we've determined that there's sufficient information to approve the appeal. The one case on our consent agenda this evening is 2015-51, 412 Lyman Avenue, Richard and Constance Houston.
Good evening. Herbert Burgunder here with Mr. Houston.
Afternoon, Mr. Burgunder, and afternoon, Mr. Houston. Mr. Burgunder, we have this an application to enclose the existing first floor side open deck as a one-story side addition. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and Mr. Houston, why don't we get you sworn in?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And Mr. French, do we have any thing offered by the planning department?
Martin French for the City Planning Department. Baltimore City Planning Department has no comment on this application.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Burgunder, anything further you'd like to add?
Nothing further.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed our files, we determined that there is sufficient information to approve the review.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. And Martin, do we have any signed in opposition to? Yes. Okay, which one? Thank you. 53. All right. And the rest of our agenda will include one case where there is opposition that's signed in. Frequently, we found that opposition is a result of either a lack of communication or miscommunication between the parties. Actually, I'll skip this step because I think you all have been discussing a potential resolution in this case. This is 2015-53, 602 Hyson Street. Okay, and you guys can just stay there, but have you discussed the case previously to try to work something out?
We're still at an impasse as to what to do about the problem.
Okay, all right, we'll call you in turn then. We just did, we have a standard thing that we go through to encourage folks to talk, but I think that you folks have done that, so it's to be commended. The first case on our agenda is 2015-52, 1215 East Monument Street, Richard Kelly. Afternoon, sir.
How you doing, sir?
And gentlemen, your names for the record?
My name is Richard Kelly, Jr.
Michael Chambers.
Michael Chambers?
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, if you can raise your hands to be sworn, please.
How do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And Mr. Kelly, we have this an application to use a portion of the church for a 100-child daycare center. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have staff reports?
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, and although noting that there is in fact a serious demand for quality daycare in this area, notes that there are specific issues with this particular property and the proposed use for a 100-child daycare center. The most serious in the eyes of the Planning Department is that this is a mid-block property on Monument Street, which is a very busy street, and the current active use of the adjoining properties, one being Monument East, public housing high-rise development for the elderly and disabled, and the other being a medical clinic, may not permit the use of those properties for drop-off and pickup of children in a safe way. Therefore, the department feels that this particular site may not be the best to use for the proposed purpose. The other issue is that there would be a staff off-street parking requirement associated with the use, which the site is unable to provide due to the fact that the building occupies over 90% of the property on which it is located, and there is no mid-block curb cut of any sort that would allow a driveway going towards the back of the building. The department, therefore, for those technical reasons, recommends disapproval of the appeal because the site does not provide either on-site drop-off and pickup areas or space for staff parking, and because the volume of traffic on Monument Street could be hazardous to use of part of the street for a passenger loading zone that could be used for drop-off and pickup of children during the hours of operation proposed by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Kelly, it seems like the planning department has kind of defined the issues for us a bit in this case. If you could tell us what it is that you're proposing, and if you could also include in your discussion any potential for addressing the pickup and drop-off and parking issues.
And so, Pastor Chambers will be the spokesperson for the church.
Okay.
First, we want to thank you for taking the time to hear the case.
You can come forward and
Okay.
a little bit closer.
In front of the church, we've already got a preset place for drop-off that we do on a regular basis, on a weekly basis for our Sunday morning worship. There's approximately about 100 feet, 4 car lengths that's there for drop-off. We do it all the time for MTA, individuals who are dropping off various things. In addition, there's another drop-off spot that can have access to the church off of Asquith, which is directly behind the church and the Monument East property. In addition, we have an agreement with the Housing Authority for the lot directly behind us for parking purposes. And we use that lot and for primarily for Sunday morning worship and sometimes on during the week, depending on what we have happening that week. It's already been approved by the Housing Authority for us to park there for, I don't have the exact time period, but we've got an agreement with them. In addition, we have built or laid out a walking space alongside the church for parishioners to walk along that path to come up from the back to the front of the church. That was worked out with the Housing Authority. So we've had, our church has been in existence over 100 plus years. We've been in that area well over 100 years. So
Now, the parking lane in front of or the drop-off area in front of the church, is that limited to only on Sunday mornings, or is that 24 hours, 7 days a week?
well, we've always been able to use it. I mean, for whatever we need, whether that's funerals, anything that we have during the week as far as worship events, as well as Sunday mornings as well.
Is it a posted parking area?
No, it's not a posted parking area.
Okay. Do you have anything from, whether it's from the Department of Transportation or the Parking Authority, giving you a drop-off lane, or is this just the space that's available in front of the building?
No, we haven't. I mean, as I stated before, the church has been there 100 years. So they've always been able to park there. There never has been an issue or problem related to that, and as it is with many other churches that's in the city. So we don't have anything that I'm aware of that's official saying that this is a designated area.
Okay. And the agreement that you have with the Housing Authority for the use of the parking in the back of the church, I guess it's this area here that you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
It's the building and that's your church?
Right. It's the grass area. Actually, there's, from here, we have a spot there for about at least 100 to 150 cars along the pathway on the side of the church. We created a walkway for our parishioners to walk from here through the parking lot, up the side, and come to the front of the church. That agreement was made with ourselves as well as with the Housing Authority.
Okay, so you're talking about this open lot here?
Yes.
Okay. And that, first of all, is that, this is a picture from 4 years ago. Is that paved?
That is,
gravel?
that's gravel, basically gravel.
Crushing.
Crush and run.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the agreements you have with the housing authority, is that limited to only Sunday mornings? Or
No.
is that,
No,
you
we've
can
got,
use that?
we use that at any given time that we need to use it.
Okay. Do you have like a lease or?
We do.
Any form, okay.
We do.
And what's the term of that lease?
And I do believe initially it was set for 3 to 5 years. We're up for renewal. As far as I know, and the conversation we've had in the past, that there's not going to be an issue with us renewing it.
Okay.
Because there's several years out from any type of development in that area. That's the old Somerset,
Yeah.
Old Town Mall area.
And is there like an option period where you can say, we're going to renew it and you automatically have the right to renew it, or is the
Yes.
renewal? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So you do have that. All right. And do you have the right to use any of these parking spaces, or is it just that
No,
gravel area?
That is just the gravel area.
Okay.
That parking lot itself belongs to Monument East.
Okay.
To the high-rise that's next door. But we've always had pretty much a working agreement. We do a lot of ministry work in and around that church, so we've,
Okay.
I don't foresee an issue, but obviously it's not official. So.
I mean, that's a pretty large parking area that you've got there. Do you know how many cars approximately could fit in that?
Over
space?
150 cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And about how many congregants do you have on a Sunday, let's say?
Our average attendance is somewhere between 3 and 4.
Okay. And that's 100?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, considering your parishioners park there on Sundays?
Excuse me?
Your parishioners park in that
They
lot?
park there. They also park on the street, on-street parking, as well as the school that we've had an agreement with. It's understood agreement
Gotcha.
for quite a while that we park there as well.
All right. And how about this property that's adjacent here? Or do you have any agreements to use any of that parking?
I believe is that John Medical? I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to.
I'm not sure. Right there on the corner?
The John Medical?
Yeah.
No, we do.
Okay.
We had one previously prior to John Medical owning the facility,
Gotcha.
but not anymore.
All right, so you're primarily able to use that open lot?
Yes, sir.
Behind there. Okay. And your option to renew it, is that for another 3 to 5 year term?
It's more than likely it's going to be
This
for
one is?
another 3 to 5 years because we're not sure exactly where the development piece is with it at this point.
Okay.
Even in addition to that, there's a good possibility that we would still have access to parking because I am on the steering committee as it relates to the development for Somerset and the Old Town Mall area. So we're in conversation about shared parking in that area.
Okay.
That's for the future whenever development happens.
Okay. And at 100 children, David, what would their parking requirement be for staff?
6, I think it's a bad issue.
Yes. 12 staff, 6 off-street parking spaces. Okay.
I'm assuming you don't have a copy of the lease with you for the parking?
No, we do not, but
So
I'm
can
sure
you-
we can get that.
You can get a copy to us?
Yes, sir.
And all right, so turning to the floor plans, you've got one classroom here located on the first floor, and that's a 27 feet by 31 foot space. And that's marked as classroom 2. Do you know what age children are you planning to have in that space?
I think that's the ages identified. Yeah, it's not, we're looking at, I do believe it's 3 to 12. I think that's the correct age.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that one space?
No.
Oh.
I'm not sure exactly of all the details.
Yes.
All of it's in the documentation, so
Okay.
I'm not sure
Gotcha.
exactly the actual numbers. I mean, we
Alright.
were asked to present a floor
Floor
plan.
plan,
not-
yeah.
not
I
so
just
much
didn't
a-
know if you knew, sometimes the folks come in with daycare plans and they've
Right.
got, they
Well,
know
we've
where-
already gone through the sessions with the folks that handle the licensing process, and so we're at this stage of it right now. So and we also have persons who are members of our church who currently own daycare centers. So we have persons that we can use for consultation or advising.
Okay. So classroom 1 is going to be in the basement. That's a 49 by 57 foot space. Also shows a stage that's 11 feet by 57. And then on the 3rd floor, you've got 3 rooms, 22, 6 inches by 15. Okay, it's a preschool room. All right. All right, looks like in that room 2 is going to be preschool age children on the 1st floor. And then school age children in the basement. And what is going to be the ages of the school age children that you'll have? Like, did you say up to 12 years old?
I think it's up to 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I do believe that's the number.
And what will be your hours of operation?
I do believe it's 7 to 6. I
Okay.
think it's 7 to 6. Or it may be 6 to 6. I can't remember exactly what. I know it's all in there somewhere. I mean, we've got it in documentation. Is it 6 to 6?
Six in the evening, morning?
Yeah, it's gonna be 6. It's gonna be like a 6 a.m.
Morning,
Yeah,
seven.
because we're gonna have there's gonna be an after-school program as well.
On this application, 6 AM to 11.
11.
Okay.
And you've got the basement is going to be a dining hall area.
Mhm. That area seats approximately about 200 or more
Yeah,
people.
I see that. Preschool age, a school kitchen. So then on the 3rd floor, let me see, do we have? Do you know which age children are going to be in the 3rd floor classrooms?
It's gonna have to be the older children. It's gonna be upstairs, and the smaller children will be in the downstairs area.
Okay.
And then the after-school part will be in that dining facility area. I think we're gonna have that place designated as well.
All right. All right. And the youngest age children that you'll have?
I do believe it's two. I think it's
2.
2. I know that we're not doing infants.
Infants.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions?
Is there a rear entrance to the church building in the back where the parking lot is for the high rise?
It is, yes.
When people park on the gravel, they can either come in through the rear or.
They have the option, but typically we've got a walkway. Person will just take the walkway and come around through the front of the church. Because the rear actually comes to the basement area around the fellowship hall or the cafeteria area.
So they'd have, if they went down to the basement area, they'd have to take the child
Right,
upstairs.
right. You take steps upstairs.
All right.
Or the elevator.
Yeah.
Ah, you have an elevator.
Is there parking allowed on East Minor Street?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do believe that the time that is prohibited for parking is on the opposite side, from 4 to 6, And that's been up for discussion for the planning and zoning because it really doesn't accommodate the time because the heaviest traffic is early in the morning, not in the afternoon. So that has been something, my contention with planning and zoning about maybe changing that and shifting it to the opposite side, which is Madison, where the
Yes.
traffic goes down the other way, so.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next case in the docket is 2015-53, 602 Hyson Street, Charles Scarlotta.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening. All right. And Mr. Scarlotta, we have this as an application to construct first and second floor side and rear additions and a new third floor with deck on the second floor rooftop. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. If everyone can raise their hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do we have staff reports?
Yes, first we have a letter from the residents next door at 604 Hyson Street. They write that they are against the request that it will use up almost 100% of the lot coverage and add a third floor where all surrounding properties are only 2 stories. This will negatively impact the light and air to their property. The backyards here only have a small walking alley, and building to the property line is excessive. No one was consulted by the owner of 602, and many of the neighboring owners were opposed to the addition when I brought this up to their attention. I hope that you will consider the scale of the area and deny the petition for these exceptions. Does planning have a report?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Scarletta, why don't you tell us a bit about what you've got planned here?
Originally, I grew up in this house. My parents owned it. As I grew up, the family increased in size. Originally, it was a 2-bedroom house on the second floor with a bathroom in the basement. As my parents had a daughter, later on, it became very uncomfortable trying to accommodate a family with 3 children in a 1-bedroom rear house. When I bought the house, I had a boy and girl myself, and I found it very cumbersome to try and utilize that second bedroom for exactly what it was being used for, which was a boy and a girl. Eventually, I had to move out of the house in order to get an apartment that had a 3rd bedroom. Now that I've gotten older and I've retired, I'm looking to try and redevelop this house to make it much more family-oriented so that it has a bedroom and a bathroom for both the parents and the children, for both safety as well as security and peace of mind for the parents, that their children is safe on the second floor with them. The spare bathroom on the second floor was to keep the medicines from the adults away from the children. I've thought this through quite a bit because I not only grew up in the house, but also tried to live there as a parent. There's a 3rd bedroom and a bathroom in the basement in case there is a need for a 3rd child, a space for an additional child, as well as it could be utilized for a game room or something like that. So it's a convertible room. Doesn't necessarily have to be a bedroom. What I also did was I accommodated the need for a laundry space on the second floor. The current house has a very narrow, steep stairwell. That was the reason why I needed to go out the back, is to be able to make the stairway wide enough to be able to go up and down it comfortably without being intrusive. I've fallen down those steps many a times. That was one of the sticking points for me, was to try and make the stairwell differently. If I try to make the stairway different now and keep the same depth, then it eliminates the kitchen space pretty much. What I'm looking for is enough to go out the back to be able to accommodate a closet in the bedroom upstairs, as well as being able to support the stairway to go in there comfortably and support a kitchen space on that side. Now, as far as the third floor, it's pretty common, actually, in the area to have a doghouse extruding through the roof as a third floor to carry the stairway up to the roof decks. Both 610, 612, and 618 on the same street, all three have third floors. The house directly in front has a 16 by 30-foot wide third floor on it already as well. So it's not uncommon for people to put third floors on in that area. It just hasn't grown to the point where so many people have redeveloped their houses yet to be able to utilize that. Almost every property behind that house has the doghouse, almost every single one of them. This row of houses was built before the ones directly behind it. When they built the row behind it, they realized that they didn't have enough space for that bathroom, so they put the 2 bedrooms in and built an overhang out the back, which is now gone. They've renovated all those houses. But that's how they solved that bathroom problem, is by building an overhang on the back of the house. Those properties aren't quite as deep, so they couldn't do that on those. So that's pretty much what I had in mind here, is to try and build something that was much more friendly to a family. So that it was a starter home, and it worked for a short span of time, but as my family grew, it just became a nightmare to try to figure that out. So that's where I stand with that. I believe it's 96% that I have lot coverage. I think it's 94% that 610 had built onto recently.
So, all right, good. All right, so I see an existing aerial.
It already has a side addition,
All right,
a 1-story. Doesn't have the basement under it, under that addition. That was a
and
mistake.
you're looking to build
The second floor.
a second floor over
the
this.
addition. And what I'm going to extend that line directly to the front of the house, so that wall, the interior wall will come down.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not, what I try to do is not only split up the second floor so it's a functional space for bathroom and bedrooms, but I opened up the first floor so that it's much more of an open environment, kind of spacious thing, where the basement is yet again broken up into smaller rooms again.
Okay.
So the central area in that house and on the first floor is completely open with 1 support column in the middle, and everything's basically up against the walls. So it's a big, large area in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're basically cutting off this corner here.
Right. And what I would be
Trying
doing
to
is
bring
then
it up to the front.
extend it out the back. I think it was 7 feet, I think it was, to give a room for the stairway and the closet in the front bedroom.
How many square feet is it per floor? What you want to, what do you have and what do you want to build to?
I'm sorry, what was your
How many
question?
square feet per floor?
I believe it was 1,100.
That's what you're getting to?
That's what I'm trying to get to. Yeah, I think it's 640 or something right now. It's a little baby doll house.
The whole house?
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
house?
Yeah, it's 2 rooms. 2 rooms on the first floor, 2 rooms on the second floor, and a really narrow stairway that's real steep. It's not even, I don't, you have to duck to get underneath the beams in order to turn at the end, in order to exit the floor in the basement. The space in the stairway on the second floor, that dead space behind it as you turn, that little teeny dead space is the closet. That's it. It's the only closet on my second floor.
Okay. Anything further before we turn to your opposition?
The back of the house is facing north. She did say that she had a problem with sunlight, sun rises on the east. That's on her side.
Okay. All right. Now we'll go to the opposition. If you can both state your names for the record, please.
I'm Claire Bogdansky,
Robert Gisriel.
and if I may, I brought some photographs
Sure.
to share. I have the property directly next door, and Charles didn't get a chance to consult with me prior to me hearing about the zoning. But if you look at the first page of what I've presented, it's a photograph of that block. So you can see all of the buildings down the block are two-story. There's a couple that have a doghouse, but not the full-size addition that he's talking about for the third floor, which is much bigger than a doghouse. This is a little alley street. It's parallel to Ford Avenue. So the houses face west, and the backs of the houses faced east as north and south from Ford Avenue. So it's a half a block behind Ford Avenue. If you look, he's a corner property, so there's an L-shaped alley. The L-shaped alley goes to the street behind us, and then it goes behind our properties as well. So it's a 3-foot alley. It's a very small space between all the properties here. That's what the second page shows. The second page shows the rear of the homes that we're talking about. His is the white on the right, mine's the one with the sliding glass door in the middle, and then the one next to me. These are all at the same spot, straight across with yards in the back. They're not very big yards because you can see the size of the small alley behind us. You're already at the fence to the homes that back up from the street the next block over, which is Harvey Street. And I've taken a photograph on the third page of the Harvey Street houses from our side of the alley. And you can see they're all also 2 stories with exterior stairs that go up to the roof decks. They're not dog houses there. So if this home was built out to the property line, like he's saying, like 97% of the property, you're going to block all the air and light that comes in around that L-shaped alley into these homes, which get afternoon sun, which is most of the time when people are enjoying their property because they're working during the day. But he's got a deck out there. We all have our little decks out there. And if you're going to be up against a 7-foot wall, it's not going to be a very enjoyable property. So I'm concerned with the scale based on the homes in the immediate area. I did walk around and ask a couple of the owners that I could reach during the day that were available. They weren't aware of the change because they park on Jackson or Harvey Street behind, the homes that face into the rear, and the ones on Jackson Street that face also into the L-shaped part of the alley. So he hasn't really consulted anybody in the neighborhood. I know he owns multiple properties in the neighborhood. You mentioned 612 or 614. He's going to want to do the same thing to those. And I'm just thinking we're all going to feel a little bit more enclosed. I'd prefer not to have this continue down the row. I've renovated my property. I'm in the process of doing that right now. And I've kept within my 4 walls, trying to respect all the neighbors around me. And I think that's working out beautifully. It's going to be a lovely 1-bedroom, 1-bath home with a den area in the basement. It fits the size of what we have. And then a little back door out the back, so if somebody wants to have a pet, they can have a little yard for their pet. I brought my architect along with me. He helped me design a livable space in a small, petite home. And he has some issues with maybe you better speak to your issues because I don't understand architecture as much. But this is Robert Gisriel. I'll let him speak on his own behalf.
Hi, I'm Robert Gisriel. I'm an architect. I've been designing small houses like this for 30 years. I started in the Dollar House program, and it really is difficult to design a small house. And by looking at these plans, something kind of jumps out at you is that there's no windows on the rear and side elevation except for the little window in the kitchen above the sink. And I pointed it out to the owner. If you look at the building code, we're supposed to have 8% of the floor area is supposed to be a window. And you're not supposed to have a window on a property line. It has to be 3 feet from the property line.
But if you face a street or an alley, you can take half of the street or alley included in the 3 feet. These are 4-foot alleys. So you can't have a window on the property line if you only had 2 feet for the, what's called separation distance. I've also Xeroxed the code here. Fire separation distance is either the closest lot line or the center line of a street or alley or public way. So the way he's designed this house, you can't have any windows in the bedrooms or the living room, except for the one, so it just doesn't work. And I guess that's why he hired a structural engineer. So it's difficult to design these houses to fit all the building codes. So, but the real main issue here is light and ventilation. I'm also on the design review for CHAP for Otterbein and Fells Point. And it's one of the things we really, and actually in Otterbein, we have a guideline that states you have to get permission from any additions that are within 3 feet of a property line. That's in a code Covington, it's on the deed restriction, but we're also part of CHAP. And that's one of the things we really try to encourage when people do additions, is to talk to your neighbor and understand that light and ventilation and light coming through is very important to these properties to make them really livable. So in this case, a 7-foot, if you look at the photograph on page 2, that's the photograph from
The rear,
this one on the top.
the rear of Hyson Street.
So this is taken from the sliding glass door, and it shows, it's the next page, sir. So it shows his deck that so in other words, you project 7 feet out, going up 3 stories, it really would block all the sunlight, and especially the west sunlight that comes through at the evening. That's really important for people who use their decks.
Being somewhat familiar with this area, I know that and you can see it a little bit in this photograph here, but it's a little bit sun challenged, just simply because of the location of the structures and the path of the sun. So on Harvey Street, much of the time, except for early in the mornings, when the sun is at just the right elevation, it's mostly in shade for the properties on the, I guess, south side of Harvey Street, because the street is shading or blocking the angle of the sun. It's only the houses on the north side of Harvey Street that get sun. These houses are on the north side of just not the north side, but on the south side. No, I guess actually it's the north side of Hyson Street. So the backs are going to be as they appear in this photograph. That is, without an addition, you're already going to have the cutoff of light. Because the front of the houses are blocking the sun. Now those houses on the other side of the alley have sun, but the backs of those houses along the south side of Hyson Street, like these, are blocked from the sun.
Well, they are to a certain period of time, but then it comes in through this corner here, and you get the afternoon sun back there.
What
So-
time of day was this taken at?
1 o'clock, maybe.
Because the sun's not going to get to that position in the west until fairly later in the afternoon or evening.
Which is when most people in the summertime would be using the property because they're working during the day, is what I'm saying. It wraps around this corner, in other words.
But then you run into, you still do have, and you can see a little bit of it here, these properties on the other side. I mean, there likely is going to be a period of the day where there's going to be sun. I think you can kind of see it on this first photograph.
Right, this one
I
here.
guess on page 2, where
This one.
these properties, yeah.
Yeah.
That one. But those properties along Jackson Street are going to be blocking the sun to a significant respect at some point in the afternoon or evening. So there's going to be kind of a limited period.
Yeah.
where the sun is gonna be shining down the backs of these houses.
But it's also airflow, so you've got a small enough alley as it is.
That's
And
true.
if
I mean,
everybody
it's a-
builds out to their property line
It's a 3-foot alley in the
Yeah.
back, and it's a
and around the corner,
5-foot
so it wraps
alley on
around.
the side.
Mhm. But also, if he, I wanted to bring one other item up. If he builds out to the property line, where will the air conditioning units go? Because is that going to be vibrating on top of my,
There's a space
out
in
my
the back of the
bedroom
house.
window?
There is still a space in the back of the house.
Mhm. So the space that you're leaving for not built in is going to be where you put the
Right.
air conditioning unit, right there. So,
I prefer not to put it on the roof.
Like the zoning code really states a 25-foot rear yard setback, and that's for a yard. These yards, I think we have, she has a 13-foot to 18-foot is at an angle, and the 602 has basically 6 feet, then it goes to 13. So any encroachment into that, it really is just an undue hardship for Claire's property, I think.
so one of my suggestions to the property owner was to build out the side up 2 stories and to reduce the size of the 3rd floor addition to a doghouse. But not to go out the rear of the property. And to do what he's doing, he would have to tear down 2 walls of the property because he's going to make it all open and different, completely open on the 1st floor. So he's going to tear down 2 sides of the building. He's going to have to demo them to build what he wants to build.
Also, another thing to point out, if you look at the photograph, it shows the alleyway, the main electrical line comes right down you could see it above the alleyway. All these alleyways are 4 feet. And if he's 2 feet from that electrical line or the 3rd floor deck, could be very dangerous.
Okay, anything further?
That's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Carlotta?
The 3rd floor enclosure that we were talking about is on the party wall side. I did extend it out to the back of the property line in order to be able to use part of it as a sitting room with window space to be able to look at the Inner Harbor. The back of the property faces Pier 7, so it does face almost due north. It's not necessary that I actually utilize that extra space on the 3rd floor. It was just simply an extra that I thought I could get away with simply because, in my opinion, it was out of sight. It was away from the exterior walls where nobody could see it. I was unaware of any kind of issues that might be with the legality of having windows and handrails and stuff like that set back away from power lines, but that's all in the engineer's responsibility to make sure that that's all taken care of legally. I was yet again, I'm just trying to build something that's functional for someone to be able to comfortably be able to not only move into it first time, but be able to build a family in there and stay there, feel comfortable that they could call it home. I believe this young lady is renovating her house as a rental property. She's not even going to build a set of steps to go up on a roof. My roof deck is not going to interrupt her in any way, shape, or form because she's not even going to be on it. Neither is her tenants. That's pretty much all I have to say. If I'm denied, I'll try to restructure it to figure out what I can do with the property to try and keep it in a valuable state so that a family could probably try to utilize it. But the addition in the back was necessary for the stairs, in my opinion. I tried to put stairs sideways, and I couldn't fit the bedrooms in there because the stairs took up so much lengthwise that I didn't have the depth yet again to be able to put the stairs in lengthwise instead of switchback. Switchbacks were the only ones that were going to work in that situation.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we're off the record.
Would you like my phone number? Sure.
I'm just going to set that deck back 8 feet from the front.
If I get denied, I'll try and figure out what I can.
One thing that I wasn't, and oh yeah, we're off the record, I swear, I already said that. The one thing I wasn't clear on was the restriction on lot coverage. Because this is a lot that he's taking up, he's building almost to 100% now. I think that certainly is an unusual lot. I mean, it's not even a triangular shaped lot.
It probably fits a unique.
Yes. And the lot coverage here, David, I see it, the maximum percentage is 60%, existing is at 74, and per the plans, he wants to cover 93. Very good. And a variance authorize a lot coverage that is more than that otherwise allowed by local regulation. But there was no restriction on it. All right. Okay. What do you want to do with it?
I would say I'm okay with it. We'll cut back this out, restructure. Just make it an entranceway to the deck as opposed to the sitting room.
Why? Because he's allowed to build up to 35 feet as of right.
I guess what I'm trying to think is make it as unobtrusive as possible for the light and air consumption raised by the neighbor.
I don't think that at that elevation that there's interference with light and air for the adjoining lot. Once you're building up to that second floor, I don't think that you're that structure is going to be blocking light and air to the adjoining lot. I think that what's going to happen is that to the extent that there's going to be blockage, I think it's going to come from other parts of the.
Well, it's going to come from down here.
Yeah.
Back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Or rather, it's going to come from here.
I'm sensible to the fact that you can't do much with these small houses.
That's the thing. Yes, and that's, I think that this is sort of a prototypical case. So, I'm fine with it. I propose this is. All right, let's vote. 2015-51, 412 Lyman Avenue was by consent. 2015-52, 1215 Monument Street. There's one we can talk about. So we wanted to do parking conditioned on maintenance of agreement. I guess what, a minimum of 6 parking spaces?
Yeah, I had, subject to submission of an acceptable lease and then maintenance of that
Yeah.
lease arrangement.
Yeah. They had hours from 6 a.m. to 11, and 2-year-olds to 12. All right. Do we want to incorporate the ages as a condition, or do you want to just kind of leave that off?
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Okay, all right, we can leave that off. Hours, do we want to put that in there? Or just leave it with the parking requirement?
Yeah, I'm okay with just the parking.
Okay, fine with me. I'm a yes, conditioned on receipt of a acceptable lease for parking of at least 6 parking spaces and maintenance of a parking, a lease for parking of at least 6 spaces, 6 spaces, and on that condition, I'm a yes.
Yes.
2015-53, 602 Hyson Street, I am a yes.
Yes.
Go spell pretty laws. Yeah.
Thank you. Stay here 2 weeks. You have to come back.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks on Charm City TV.